Okay, Jim, it's all you.
Hi, my name is Jim Thompson. I am an alcoholic and a drug addict. I am 55 years old. I'm going into my 13th year of sobriety, and I'm going to give you a quick journey of my life. I grew up in a trailer park called Westview Village outside Edmonton, Alberta. I started working when I was 9 years old, delivering newspapers. At 12 years old, I got a job at the hockey arena being a timekeeper. At that point, I was making money and in the trailer park, not a lot to do. Um, so I started buying marijuana and champagne called Baby Duck from a bootlegger. And my couple buddies and myself, grade 8, we would be smoking joints and drinking champagne before we go to school every day. Just going back a little bit, how this behavior starts is both of my parents died of alcoholism. Sadly, they were in the war years, both served in the war. My dad was a sergeant in World War II. He actually would have played like myself in the NHL for the Boston Bruins, but at 17 went to World War II, was a war hero. But post-war, they both came out. They had, I'm the youngest of 10. And I can say that, by 14th, I was blacked out drunk many times. So what happens through that, that goes on to turning 14 and coming home from school and telling my mother that I want to quit school. I was obviously a very good hockey player. I want to quit hanging out with the people that were, bad influence as I was on them. And she said that she wouldn't let me do that. My brother Frank was there, and he had said, you might as well let him do it because if not, he's going to quit anyway. So she allowed me to do it. I took correspondence. I walked the hockey arena every day. I stopped doing drugs, obviously, stopped drinking. I trained like a pro in the mobile home, single mobile home. My brother set up a little gym in the living room. I used my mom's coffee table as my bench press and all these sorts of things that you make work. I walked to the rink every day and I played pickup hockey with all the men. And what happened from there is where my dad was born in Markham, Ontario. He took me down there when I was 15 and to meet my uncle and aunt. My uncle, unbeknownst to me, my uncle was a 25-year sobriety alcoholic. So he wanted to see how I could skate. I took my skates. They saw I was pretty good. And this would be a move that I didn't know what was going on. But all of a sudden, I got to go and try out for an OHL team called the Toronto Marlboros. So to move through that journey, I spent 3 years living with my aunt and uncle, who he kept obviously things intact. There was no, partying, nothing like that. So I was very serious. In my second year, I got drafted to the NHL to the Washington Capitals. And what goes from there is a 10-year pro career. And I, get drafted. My very first year pro, I'm living with two guys. It's like, this is the most unbelievable life because we're three young guys living together. We're making money. And, the lifestyle was, you go to practice in the morning and then you got the whole day to yourself. So what happens is in small towns that I played in the American Hockey League, you find yourself, at lunch at a bar every day, drinking beer, and doing other things. So through my pro career, I was very serious, but I got into, I had the party bug in me from my family. And so, on and off, there would be moments of, drug use and partying. And, for 10 years, I kept it together. Sadly, my career ended with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I played for 6 teams. The Mighty Ducks were my last team where I had 2 shoulder operations. And that's when I realized there was painkillers and some other things that went along with that. So moving into the valuable stuff for the people that are going to be listening to this, I'll call it my AANA meeting, is post-career is when, I went into the black hole. And that's when I was introduced to a drug called OxyContin. OxyContin I was getting from 3 doctors. Nobody, each doctor didn't know I was getting it from, so I had this cycle going around. When my prescription ended here, by the time I got back there, it was, way, way too many pills that I was taking. And then, cocaine was my drug of choice. And then I was introduced to smoking it, which we call crack cocaine. So that was a 4-year black journey, getting, absolutely, you know, buzzed, crazily buzzed on crack cocaine, and then coming down on OxyContin, and, it was the, 40s and 80s, and, laying in bed and my heart beating out of my chest. And just, when I look back, I'm blessed to be here with you, Will, and talking to the people who are going to see this. And, this behavior went on. And as most of us, I lost my family. I had 3 beautiful kids. So, I went through a divorce. One of the key turning points in my life was my ex-wife put me in an intervention, and I went to a rehab place, spent 30 days. And what the most amazing thing about that was, what I thought I was going for is just to detox, and I didn't know anything about rehab, but what I learned was how to live. Being the youngest of 10, my parents were the best parents they knew how to be, but there wasn't any parenting. So I learned about love. I learned about relationships. I learned about family. I learned about how to cope with emotions. I'm 41 years old, going on 42, and I had missed this whole window of how to behave and how to act. And this was just a blessing to me later in life, and with all the people that I work with now. I'll say this now, that the NHL wasn't my calling. It was a platform for me to help people. And what I do with my time now is I go around the country and try to save kids, try to save husbands, try to save mothers from, the addiction and the monster that I became. So after rehab, I like I said to you earlier, I'm 12 years sober, going into my 13th year as of November 17th. I'm in my 13th year. And, it's a battle. And I sat there and I looked in the mirror, and I couldn't, I'm looking at this kid that worked his whole life for his dream. And I achieved my dream of playing in the NHL. And through my, dark, dark days, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And it was, the monster I was seeing. And it's funny, I got this painting of Wayne Gretzky and I after we beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in my house. And we beat them in Game 7 to go to the Stanley Cup. And I had it in a position in my house where every day I got out of bed and walked out, I had to walk by it. And I could never look at it. It was the best time of my life. We're going to the Stanley Cup, and I'm with my idol and my teammate and somebody I obviously admire and look up to. And it was like he was looking at me saying, "What the F are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life?" It was almost like he was pounding me. And now I look at that picture and I get to enjoy it. I get to, remember the great times. But there was that whole period that, I was the liar. Like anybody who is going through addiction is, we're not who we are. We're liars, we're thieves, we'll hurt anybody in our path to get our hit. And it's just a sad, sad roller coaster. I say that, my joy today is giving my blessings to people who don't understand it, like I didn't understand it. I was in an intervention yesterday where the guy had already been twice. He says, "Look, until somebody wants to go and actually invest their brain into rehabilitation, it doesn't matter how many times you send somebody." So for anybody out there who is going to be going to rehab, and I'm going to tell you this, it's the thing what changed my life. It's not a disease. It's not where you're going, my first AA meeting, I was all scared because I'm thinking I'm going to go there and everybody's going to know, and the whole town's going to know that Jim Thompson's an alcoholic and a druggie. When I went to my first meeting, everybody in there were the same as me. And it was, an amazing, platform to look around and say, there's businessmen, there's athletes, there's teachers, there's all these different people with the sickness. So I say this to people, we are sick. I'll always be sick. I'll always be a drug addict. I'll always be an alcoholic. And I just can tell you that sobriety is the best drug I've ever experienced. I started when I was 12 years old, sorry. And I think of the window of going all those years with no education, being in a fog, being serious enough to play in the NHL, unraveling that to post-career and all these different places that I went. And then I'm here now at 55 years old in the best shape of my life, in the best mental state of my life. And it's, as I tell people, I know what you're going through, but you will go two places if you don't stop. And the first place you're going to go is you're going to go to jail or you're going to die. And you will run out of money eventually. I don't care how rich you are, the richest, will just do more. It's just like anything. The more you make, the more you spend. And some of the richest drug addicts are broke and rebuilding their lives, or they're dead, or they're, finding something else to do. So, when we talk about it's not going to last forever, it's going to come to an end sooner or later. And it all depends on how that individual wants to take, I call it planting seeds, and get to the state where yourself, Will, and I'm in. And, it's a fight every day. Make no mistake. I drive by every day places that I used to sit and smoke and hang out with the gang. And, I got this bracelet on my wrist, and for all of us addicts, every time I start thinking, I just snap it. And what that does, get your head back in the game. I'll be over here looking, man, I used to spend nights upon nights over at this house over here. And the hair would stand up because we know what that first hit's like, right? And I'll just do this. I might have to do it 4 or 5 times. And I've been doing that for 12 years. And I do it just to remind myself how good things are. So, I give my blessing to everybody tonight. Will, I open up communication if anybody needs to talk. I love to, I always say, if I can just plant one seed in somebody where they say, that makes sense. And if it can help turn their addiction around and help turn that father who has a family that loves them to death, or the mother, and to say the least, COVID has taken this to a whole new level. The addiction rate is, I don't want to, go there because it's bad energy for me, but there's a lot of sick going on in our world right now, and we need to support each other. And I'm spending a lot of time driving around, talking people out of suicide. Did I ever imagine that I was going to get a 20-year-old promising hockey player, on the other line saying, it doesn't matter. If I can't play hockey, this is all I want to do. And now I can't play hockey. And, what's the use? And I'm just like, wow, this kid doesn't even do drugs. He may have some mental health or whatever. And I'm like, this is not an option. It's not an option. So, we have to understand that what's going on in our world right now, it's got to take the Wills, the Jims, and the, and I say this, people, I can't thank you enough. Thank me. You're helping me, because what we need to do, everybody, is to be kind and give back. And, it's just, there's too much negative, there's too much bad. And now you start throwing addiction in, and you start throwing all these different things into what's going on in this COVID era, and it's devastating our world. So, now I wake up in the morning and I want, if anybody wants to follow me, my Instagram is very I'm going to say it's all kind, it's all love, it's all peace. It's Jim Thompson, no P in Thompson, Thomson 33. I'm not telling you that to get more followers. I'm telling you that because I have to post something positive every day, and I tell all the people that I know or work with or who need some positive reinforcement. I'll send out one good vibe every morning, one good vibe. Maybe it'll be at night. And all it is to hang on to that things are going to be okay. And, just things will be okay. And no matter what position you're in, people are losing their businesses, they're losing their homes, they're going bankrupt. I went bankrupt. I lost everything. I lost my family. I was down and out. I was searching through jackets for money. And, I was as low as you can go. And through, and I'll tell everybody this. When I went to rehab, my counselor, his name was Brian. And I'm going to give a shout out to Newgate 180. It's in Merrickville, Ottawa. And this Brian I met, he ends up being my counselor. So he says, I'm going to tell you a little story. He said, I've been doing this for 26 years. He said, if you stay sober, Jim, little gifts, he said, little gifts will fall from the sky and you don't know when they'll come, and they will come for the rest of your life. So, as you're going into this facility and I'm sitting there listening to this, and I'm going, okay, inspiration, got it, great. Well, I'm not even going to get into the gifts that have fallen. It's one after the other. And I'll say this to you, Willie, being on the show tonight is a gift because, you and I got to talk, and now this is going to go out to people that are going to listen. And I always say this, if one person gets a seed planted that can change their life, change their parents' life, change their children's life, their brothers, their sisters, then we've done something great tonight. So this is a gift. This is a complete gift for me tonight. And the gifts keep falling. And every time I'm asked to do a podcast regarding addiction and this barbaric lifestyle, I have to give it my all. I got to be telling you that as hard as it is and as bad as you feel and as broke as you are, it will get better only if you're sober. You cannot get there, and I've been in a lot of arguments with the legalization of marijuana now in Canada. When I smoked dope, I was a dope. So when I was stoned, I had all these great ideas in my head. I was going to have all these inventions. I was going to be a multi-millionaire. And then I'd go to bed and wake up with this, negative, depressing feeling because I smoked dope all day. And I understand, people need to understand, I'd rather you have medical cannabis instead of opiates. So if you're in a position that you need to kill pain or whatever it is, and that's real, okay? So my opiate addiction, I rather been smoking marijuana or taking, the edibles and what they have now, the CBS and all these things, which I don't know much about because I'm anti-drugs. I understand it. I'm reading up on it. I understand that there's better ways for head trauma, all these things. So I'm not judging. I'm just saying I don't believe in marijuana. It ruined my life. And when I smoked dope, I was a dope. So my advice, I'll call it, is if you're clear, you're living the right way, you can accomplish so much at any age. I know a lot of people are going, well, I'm getting into my 60s, the life is over. No, it's not over. It's not over. You still got 30 years left. People are living into their 90s, so it's not over. We smoked all our lives. I'm probably, I've lost 4 members of my family. They smoked and drank all their lives. None of them made it to 70. My mom, my dad, my 2 brothers all died in their 60s, all of cancer. So science tells me if I would have kept smoking, drinking, and doing that, I probably would, have not a long time left. So, I encourage people to clean their lifestyles up. We find, the science that smoking does kill us. And sports chewing, we're watching people die now of cancer in the mouth and getting their jaw cut out and all these different things. It's poison. So I'm not here to lecture. I'm just here to give you the facts that this lifestyle, if it doesn't kill you by a heart attack or your organs shutting down, it'll probably kill you by a disease or something else. So it's never too late. Don't ever think it's too late. And I know many people in addiction that are later in life that are living the life that they've always dreamed of. And if they have 10, 20 years left, it's going to be the best 10 or 20 years of their life. And that's what they say. They say it's just a blessing to wake up and feel, it's funny because in rehab, it was like this one guy said, my parents always said that, you know, I should love hearing the birds tweet in the morning outside in the summer instead of telling them to shut the F up, right? Well, we know which person loves listening to the birds, and we know which person just went to bed, blasted out of their mind telling the birds to shut up. So there's two, comical places that you go, yeah, I can get up at 5 and just love listening to the nature outside because of obviously how I feel. So my point is to everybody that, I sit here tonight and talk to you. You go on to my social media, Jim Thomson 33, direct message me. I'm here to help. I always will have energy to help anybody trying to straighten their lives out for their families, for their children. It can be done. I'm living proof. The guy that's got me on tonight, Willie, is living proof, celebrating his 9th year sobriety, which is just an amazing feat. One day leads into 2 days, leads into a month, and all of a sudden you hit your first year and you're going to go, wow. And then all of a sudden, my 10th year came and I should have been, celebrating my kids and my wife. And I said, no, it's called quiet success. I don't need to say anything. I don't need anything. All we know is I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. And today I didn't drink on my 10th year celebration. And now I'm going into my 13th year. And you know what? It's just quiet success, one day at a time. And it happens quick, And I got to tell a quick story before I go is, a guy that I used with, we were smoking and doing the pills and stuff. So I saw him 7 years after I got clean. And where we used to be at this bar, I went to the coffee shop, which I never went into because we went into the bar and then we're smoking outside and, doing our thing. So I ended up going for a coffee. And as I'm going for a coffee, he's at the door having a smoke outside and he calls me over and I'm like, wow. So I go over there and I'm looking at this man 7 years ago when I said, come to rehab with me. He said, no. And he looked at me. He goes, how long has it been? I said, it's been 7 years. And he was you could see the pain in his face that he has not stopped that whole time. And I said, it's never too late. It's never too late. So I'm sensing, Willie, we're done. So Willie's given me that our time is almost done, which is fine. But I just want to say to everybody, I pray for you. I wish you all luck. It can be done. I'm going to inspire you tonight, but you just got to fight through that detox. Whatever you need to do, you got to get through it. And sobriety is a great life. And as I said earlier, I started at 12 and I was blurred out till 42 years old most of my life, drinking and just doing some awful things. But my last 13 years has just been magical. And I want to thank Willie for having me on tonight. And thanks, whoever does listen to this, thank you for listening. And I'm blessed to be talking to you tonight. So Willie, I'll come back to you and thank you so much for this opportunity.